And we're back for another episode of Inside Sports Fantasy Football. It's Gerald Glassford coming back at you here from Inside Sports Fantasy Football to all of our great YouTube, Twitch, Facebook channels that we're on, including, of course, Inside Sports Fantasy Football, Pop Culture Cosmos, the Lakers Fast Break. Cannot thank you enough for being a part of it. Also, as well, Clutch Talk and Lakers Corner. Truly appreciate you catching our show. This is Inside Sports Fantasy Football. We're going to be doing this on a weekly basis, even on those channels. We've been doing this show for 6 seasons now, going strong, talking week 2 of the NFL here. But I would be remiss to tell you if today's show regards who can you look at to help you for week 2 in the NFL, and who were the first week disappointments. And here today to discuss that very thing is my compadre in crime for many of those shows and episodes. He is a good man indeed. He just dropped a show along with his son. Of course, I'm talking about the Lardieris, Dominic, and of course the fellow host of the Domination Sports Nation himself, Chris Lardieri. Chris, great to have you here, my friend. A interesting week 1, but I was hoping you could start off the show answering a question that has perplexed me throughout the weekend, my friend.
Mm-hmm.
Here goes. So this took place in the Cleveland-Dallas game. What in the hell is that leprechaun boy, whatever thing that's sitting in the middle of the field at Cleveland Stadium?
I didn't know. I wasn't sure if the Notre Dame mascot got so embarrassed by losing to Northern Illinois that he headed to Cleveland and disguised himself on the field. But I was wondering the same thing.
What does that even mean? I mean, yes, he's brown. He's got brown little logos, things, these holding. I don't get it.
You know what? I think at this point, he should get a shot to play some quarterback because Deshaun Watson is really, I think, finished. Although Tom
in more
Brady,
ways than one, my friend.
Yeah. But Tom Brady, the greatest NFL analyst never to call a game until this past Sunday, sure didn't have the balls to say it, but I will. Deshaun's finished.
Yeah, I heard a lot about Tom Brady's initial offering in this game as far as his commentary is concerned. I actually got a taste of it myself, and I'll just say, you know what? It's his first week. He can only get better from here. But it is, of course, week 1 in the NFL done. But my friend, before we get into some waiver wire pickups that you guys out there need to be aware of, because I tell you what, it's a pretty good offering of players out there that I see in my leagues that may be out there in your leagues on the waiver wire. Let's touch on some of the disappointments. I know I had Jordan Love as my starter. I mean, him getting hurt in the final quarter, I mean, it is what it is there. So that's a little bit of a disappointment. But I know that for many, Chris, in your former fabulous area of the woods, New York, there are 2 teams out there, one that performed in San Francisco and then one performed at home that had its array of disappointments as well.
Yep. We should probably put performed in quotes. So, yeah, those have to be 2 of the biggest disappointments, although loyal listeners of this show know, despite my allegiance to Big Blue, I told you to at all costs stay away from Giants fantasy players unless someone, slipped in late rounds and you need a guy on your bench. But they were atrocious. Daniel Jones looked like a rookie, looked like a guy who hadn't played NFL football very long.
You had a worse opening, Bryce Young or Daniel Jones?
I would say Daniel Jones, just because I don't think a lot's expected of Bryce Young. Frankly, I think a lot of people have written him off and he doesn't have any talent around him. Every year we hear the Giants are retooling. This offseason they got improved offensive line. They got Malik Neighbors, who everyone thinks will be the next OBJ. They've improved their pass rush, and none of it matters. Don't get me wrong. Young's going to be a major disappointment as a top pick that the Panthers paid a ransom for. But I don't think anyone's really expecting things out of him when he's got no one around him. Honestly, I don't think he has a size to be an NFL quarterback. I think the surprising thing is just how badly a mediocre Saints team beat his Panthers.
Oh, yeah, they soundly beat him. And he was running for his life back there in the backfield from what I saw as well. But There was also another disappointment out there, not for me because I had the San Francisco defense, and San Francisco's defense did okay against a Jets team that was supposed to be on the comeback with Aaron Rodgers coming back from that serious injury. I talked a little bit about with Joe on the Lakers fast break last night in regards to Rodgers. It is so difficult to come back from a catastrophic injury, and to do so at an older age makes it even harder.
It absolutely is. And you look at Kirk Cousins, the way he kind of looked very rusty in Atlanta, and he's not even as old as Rodgers. And then, too, I think people need to remember he really has not had a lot of reps in real game situations with the offense. So, what did he play? Like 2-3 plays last year before he blew out his Achilles. So that doesn't help. But yeah, I agree with you. At the top of my list had to be the Jets, namely because we've got Garrett Wilson. And going into last night's Monday night game, we were up against this certain team called Inside Sports Fantasy Football. Wilson put up a dud. Thankfully, we still won. But
Congratulations.
Gerald, I'm not gonna gloat because Dom and I sat there looking, at the wonderful Yahoo prognostication win probability stats throughout the game Sunday. And as Dom said to me, and he sends his regards, he's knee deep in homework, but he said, "Of course, Dad, Gerald's always got Josh Allen. We got to worry about Josh Allen." So you hung in there. It wasn't like it was a blowout and you didn't put up a
Brandon
good fight.
Ayuk signed that cash money, and unfortunately it was branded yuck last night. I got instead.
Yeah, he's on his pitch count, as it were. But yeah, the Jets really look. I know that 49ers have a great defense, but it was just like they didn't even come to play last night.
Also here today, he just dropped in. Good man indeed. He is the mastermind behind his company, SimBlades.com, and you know him as Ox9247, LakersBall.com, and also Lakers Fast Break. It is Joe Soro. Joe, good to have you here. Your Steelers in that field goal fest. What an exciting, slam-packed, action-packed game that was. Okay, I'm being really facetious when I say that, but they did get the win, so congrats to you on that. Joe, we're talking about week one disappointments. I know that Chris and I already mentioned his New Yorkers as far as the Giants and the Jets as far as it's concerned. Who else stood out to you as far as a disappointment in regards to at any position for fantasy football owners out there? You're on mute.
Are you talking fantasy football results or the actual football games?
Fantasy football results.
Well, I had a devastating one. I listened to McCaffrey say I'm definitely playing week one and believed him, and I ended up losing by a touchdown.
The running back said he knew on Friday. The kid who I think, let me get his name. I forgot his name. I got it. It is Jordan Mason. He knew Friday he was starting, Joe.
Yeah, I didn't hear anything, and
oh yeah, I know they didn't tell the public.
Other than I actually read that he was playing, and it's I had one of my setups locked in. It was done, and I ended up losing by a touchdown. If Samuel doesn't score a touchdown, I win. I win by like 0.35 points.
But yeah,
I was pretty upset. Matter of fact, I still haven't texted the group chat in there. I've been seeding at this point.
Well, obviously that would be a big disappointment because of the fact it wasn't mentioned out there. I mean, Chris, I didn't get wind of it either. So did you get wind of any type of McCaffrey injury beforehand?
No, the only way I knew something was up was I happened to be looking at waivers yesterday and was looking at the transaction trends. And I'm like, who's this Mason guy and why is everyone picking him up? So I don't know if you've got to dig into like Reddit feeds to find this sort of stuff out. But you would think in Roger Goodell's NFL where gambling is not important, but it really is, that this would have been disclosed that by Friday, the 49ers knew McCaffrey wasn't starting. But apparently in the world of Yahoo Fantasy, people knew.
Absolutely. But we will see what happens with some of the other games that are coming up this week in week 2 of the NFL. We'll go ahead and obviously give you our thoughts on some picks, including heading to the doghouse. But before we do, wanted to go ahead and ask you guys real quick. There's a ton of talent still available, including in many leagues, Jordan Mason. he is available. We do not know how long the injury is going to be for McCaffrey and how long that will be, but there's still plenty of good quarterbacks, position players. Is there anyone that you're eyeing? I know we're in the same league, and I'll try not to get whoever it is you're going after, my friend. But just for the sake of the audience, who is someone out there that you think that could be available on most waiver wires? Because there's some really good talent out there.
Yeah, depending on the league, I think the front runners are going to be Isaiah Likely, the Ravens tight end who put on a great show Thursday night opener, a little toenail away from making it another touchdown for him and potentially a win for the Ravens. J.K. Dobbins, who looked like the healthy J.K. Dobbins of old for the Chargers. But, depending on how deep your league is, those guys might be taken. You got to kind of dig a little deeper. I'm going to give you a couple nuggets here. Last year we got Puka Nacua on waivers after week 1. He's going to be out at least 4 weeks with knee issues. So you've got to look at Demarcus Robinson. He's got a lot of the targets, and they lost to the Lions. And then also Tyler Johnson, who's going to bump up and get some more targets. So I think those guys will benefit from teams trying to key on Cooper Kupp, who had a phenomenal game. And then 2, I don't know if you need a kicker, but Joe's kicker did pretty darn good. And judging by what I saw in bits and pieces on Red Zone the other day, I don't think the Steelers are going to be able to get it in the end zone as much as they like, or Arthur Smith thinks he will. So I think Mr. Boswell is going to be kicking a lot this year as well.
I also want to say that for me, Baker Mayfield and Tua Tagovailoa, I think those guys are out and available on a ton of leagues, and that surprised me that Tua especially was available in plenty of leagues out there. So keep an eye out for them. Who surprises you, Joe, on your waiver wire that you're saying to yourself, man, how's he not been picked up as of yet?
I was surprised Likely wasn't picked up. I actually put in a waiver claim a few hours ago for him. I actually was angry at myself for not. I had thought about him during the drafts, but then I forgot and realized, holy crap, Likely is the guy I was thinking about, like in the back of my mind, because I just don't think. I think by the end of the year, I'm pretty confident that he's going to be probably the go-to guy at tight end, because I think Andrews is starting to. I don't know if he's healthy. I don't know if he's going to continue to be healthy. It's a very, very tough position to play when you're injured. It's very tough to get healthy, even when you're playing, especially. And you know, tight ends get hit almost as much as running backs do these days with all the passing attacks now that in the NFL. And as far as quarterback, there aren't any surprises because I do my homework a little bit here. I picked up Baker Mayfield as my backup quarterback in a league where I had Jared Goff. The issue this week was I didn't start Baker Mayfield. I started Goff, and that was a mistake. But we also have to factor in that it's week 1. Much like the short attention spans people have, I think they assume every week's going to be week 1. It's not like that. It doesn't work that way. You got to be smart, and you got to be focused on 18 weeks or 17 weeks, depending on what league you're in. And I'm going to stick to my teams until I can't do it anymore. So I'd say Likely was a surprise that he was still available, because I think he's going to continue to play well. And I think he's going to be the go-to guy in Baltimore. And I don't know if that means a lot with Lamar Jackson being quarterback. I think the league, when I compare, there's like this underground favoritism for Lamar Jackson. And they're trying to make Lamar Jackson bigger than he is. I mean, the guy's won 2 MVPs, and it's very similar to Steve Nash's MVPs. Now, Steve Nash is great, and Lamar Jackson is very good. But MVP twice for a guy who can't make a pass, he should have won that. He should have tied that game up 2 passes before the Likely pass. He had Zay Flowers wide open in the middle of the end zone, and he messed it up. and then the out route to the left. I'm sorry, I forgot who was open on that one. Was it Likely as well? Completely missed him. And that's Lamar Jackson's MO. He cannot make that pass in those moments on a regular basis. And, any receiver, any tight end on that team is you're going to have to battle the fact that he might not be able to make that championship touchdown pass when you need it in fantasy football. As far as Baker Mayfield, oh man, there was talk that the Steelers were going to pick him up, and while I want to wait a little bit longer, let me wait till about week 5 or week 6. But man, is Cleveland the worst run team in the NFL?
They don't look very good right now, but I would put Carolina and maybe, cover your ears, Chris, the Giants maybe a little bit ahead of them.
There's hope for the Giants, though.
Where?
There's hope. And I'll tell you where. And Chris, I'm not doing this to pump you up. I was already thinking about this before the game started, because I kind of knew it wasn't going to go well this year for the Giants, but I didn't know it was going to be this bad week 1. I have a very strong feeling that the Giants will be the worst team in the NFL. And that might be a good thing this year, because I believe Carson Beck will be the first pick. Now, I'm sure, Chris, you had to have at least heard or thought about this, but you did hear about Bill Belichick saying he wants to coach next year, right?
Yeah, and I saw the AI bots that put a Giants cutoff hoodie on them in pictures today. So it's no. Listen, Mara made a mistake many years ago not bringing Belichick back. So we'll see if he corrects that.
All hail to Ray Hanley. I'm still trying to figure that one out. I was a kid at that point, and I still didn't understand how that
was George Young had a vendetta against Bill Belichick. Yeah.
George Young. That's
one of the smartest minds in football. Also made one of the worst coaching moves ever.
I believe the reason why Bill Belichick didn't get the job was very similar to why Bill Walsh was so, denigrated by Paul Brown. I think they saw an aloofness in them that they thought, these guys are not going to really be leaders. Because think about it for a second. Look at Paul Brown. Look at Bill Parcells. These guys are kind of enigmatic guys and kind of, legends. And how are you going to replace those guys with, Bill Walsh was very, very stressy. That's what I call it. Stress. You could see his stress. And then you had Bill Belichick, who was kind of aloof. So, looking at it from an objective standpoint, of course, hindsight's 2020. Maybe George Young saw Bill Belichick in that way, where he's like, how's this guy going to lead anybody if he's this aloof? But fast forward to 34 years later, which will be 35 next year. I have a question for you, Chris, and I was excited to come onto the show today to ask you this question.
Giants and excitement don't normally go into.
I know. Well, look, it's still the Giants, and people will still care, and you're not the Cleveland Browns. Just kind of look at it that way.
True.
And in a lot of ways, you're not the Cincinnati Bengals. Bengals are – Mike Brown is, to me – I keep going back and forth. Bidwell, Mike Brown, McCaskey's, I don't know who's worse. So Mara's, at least, I don't think they're bad. I think they're just hitting a really bad spot right now. But if you're Bill Belichick and it's February and the season's over and – the Bills don't go to the Super Bowl, at least, do you take the Giant job if the Giants have the number 1 pick? And I feel pretty strong that's going to be Carson Beck. Might change, but as of right now, do you go to the Giants and fulfill your destiny and kind of bring back the glory to the Giants before you check out? Or do you go to Buffalo, because I think McDermott gets fired, and then you have a franchise quarterback that's going to likely play like an MVP for the next 5 years?
So I would normally say the Giants, but after what happened this offseason, Belichick got vilified in that Bob Kraft documentary. Let's face it, that's all it was
He got
on
destroyed,
Apple.
yeah.
And he's going to say, I am X, I forget how many games away from Shula's record. I got one of the best quarterbacks in football. I can turn this team around quickly. And it's a big middle finger to the team we play down in Foxborough twice a year.
There you go.
That's
I agree 100%. But I'm telling you, man, that head coaching the Giants, I don't know, man. I'm if it was me, I would choose Buffalo because you could whoop New England twice a year too. But man, whew.
Yeah, and the other thing too is the Bills are getting a brand new stadium. I know this because my cousin's working on it. He's been in upstate New York for a while, and it looks like it's going to be beautiful. So I'm sure Pagula is going to want a winner right away if McDermott can't deliver it. And then you think too with the Giants, they're so I don't know how to say it other than traditional, where like they'll want a GM, and I don't know if Belichick's going to want to answer to someone. I felt like that's what played him out of the running in Atlanta.
Once again, it is Inside Sports Fantasy Football. It is Chris Lardieri from the Domination Sports Nation and Joe Sora from Lakers Fast Break, LakersBall.com, and Simblades with a Y.com. Harry Schaff says, would love out. Might be forced to start Bryce Young and my Superflex. Send help. Who do you have available on your waiver wire, my friend? That's who I would look at. Tell you what, there's some decent quarterbacks out there that are on a lot of waiver wires if you have that available in your league. I would do what I can to get off of Bryce Young as soon as possible. Guys, with Love out for an extended period of time with that MCL sprain, what can he do? If he doesn't have a waiver wire that's available in his league, would a trade be coming sooner rather than later, Chris?
I would hope you have a waiver wire claim.
Yeah.
And by the way, like the name Harry Shaft, I feel like I'm listening to Howard Stern. Anyway,
he said Jacoby Brissett is all that's left. Wow.
Well, good luck in your league. I was going to suggest like a Matt Stafford or even a Geno Smith, but looks like that's out of the question.
That must be that's a big league, or you guys use big teams.
It's a 2014 league.
Yeah, or you guys play like 20 players, man. Joe, any thoughts on that? I think a trade, if that's the case, he needs to make a trade sooner than later.
Yeah, unfortunately, even in my leagues, quarterbacks are not available off the wire. People have
a 20-team league. Yeah, there you go. Okay.
Oh yeah, 20-team league. God, I've never been on one of those. I don't even know where to start on that one. But yeah,
do you go? I mean, do you deal with it with a couple weeks and pick a guy who's on the bench?
I think that's what I would do, Chris.
Like a Drake May, even, or I don't know. Or
I would go with if he's available. Just is Derek Carr available in your league? Probably not. That would be at least a safe bet.
I think Jacoby Brissett is the highest ranking quarterback right now. That's available.
Then I guess hedge your bet and get Drake May, or I don't know. I mean, with Fields playing, he's going to be gone. So yeah.
Yeah, Fields, I think, will have a better game this week. Whether that results in a win, I don't know. I think and I hate to say this, but the officiating is he had some really good plays that he actually set down the field that got called back on whatever calls. And going back to what I was saying earlier, I didn't get a chance to finish. The love for Lamar Jackson, this I don't know if it's media or whatever's going on in and around the NFL, that they want this guy to be better than he is. Well, it's the exact opposite for TJ Watt. They're holding this guy down so much, and I'm trying to figure out, why would you do that? What is it with TJ Watt? He had 2 sacks taken away. One was a strip sack that would have been a cover for the Steelers that was not even close to being offsides. And the Fox replay booth would not show the sideline replay. I ended up seeing it eventually. I'm on a forum for a Steeler. I'm a member of a Steeler forum, and you could see he timed it so good. He looked like Troy Polamalu. It was so perfect. And I don't understand what this league is and what they do. I really don't understand what it is about defense. anything that's a quarterback, these guys just are gargling every 5 seconds. What is it about this league and quarterbacks? It's just mind-boggling to me. I don't know.
I mean, the only thing with Brissett, he is running the ball. He had 30 yards, so he may be continuing to run the ball, Chris. That's the best thing I can say, because it looks like they have him on a game manager plan. You're not going to get a whole bunch of passing yards from him, from what I saw yesterday.
Yeah, I think just hang on to him and maybe handcuff him with Drake May. And if the Patriots are as bad as everyone thinks they'll be, May will be throwing the ball a lot. I think that's your only upside there.
I will say this, Harry, and thank you again for the question. Truly appreciate it. I think you need to explore a trade. I really think you should start it now, get ahead of the game. You've got the only advantage of a 20-team league is that you have 19 other opportunities to get a trade, and you may find one. I don't want to say sucker, but you may find one individual team that you may be able to get a nice backup quarterback for. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, I'm wishing you the best of luck, Harry. That's the tough part of being in a 20-team league, because you just don't have much to maneuver after your draft. Cruz says, would you all trade Puka and JD5 for Waddle? I have Allen. Joe, your thoughts on that?
Waddle and who?
He said Puka and JD5 for Waddle, and he said he has Allen.
Would trade Puka and JD5 for Waddle. Shoot.
How long is Puka going to be out?
4 weeks.
Yeah, minimum 4.
But I don't know. He's been hurt for. It might
He was
be
hurt
longer.
going into
I
the
don't
game.
know if
Yeah.
I trust it.
He
By
was
the way,
banged up in the game.
Mark, I got something to send you about Xbox versus Sony. You're going to get a kick out of it. Just send me an X or tweet or whatever the hell they call them now, and I'll send you the link. I don't think Puka's going to be healthy half the year, so I would do the trade.
I really think it's starting off on a bad note for Puka. The magic is gone this time around, Chris, and I just think at this point,
I don't think the magic is gone. He's just not healthy.
Well, just for this year, it's going to be those seasons where it's going to take a long time for him to get back to where he was productivity wise. So I really think you should get off of him sooner rather.
Yeah, if you could pull that off, do it.
Great question so far. Appreciate it. Once again, this is Inside Sports Fantasy Football. Truly appreciate you joining us. Before we head on out, it's week 2 in the NFL. And before we get to the woof, 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 head on to the doghouse. Joe, are there any games, for entertainment purposes only, are there any games that you're eyeing maybe as I know you condemn sports betting as far as that's concerned, as far as how it's corrupting the league or whatnot, but they've been doing it forever, my friend. Is there any games that you would think that might catch your eye in case you were doing some sports betting?
Are we talking about for sure bets or surprises?
Something that might stand out to you, just as far as the week 2 lines are concerned.
I haven't really. It's still early. We still have to see how things develop during the week. But the game that caught my eye, and maybe I'm biased here, is the Las Vegas and Baltimore game.
Mm-hmm.
I want to see what Uncle Rico does in Baltimore.
Brock's the real deal. I'll just say that. He's the real deal.
He is. I don't know why. I want to see. A lot of people are talking down on Vegas. They lost to the Chargers. I get it. And Vegas is not going to be a juggernaut here this year. But there's always at least one kind of game a week that's weird. And it doesn't make any sense. And I have a feeling that the Las Vegas-Baltimore game will be that game.
Chris, any games, not as far as the underdogs are concerned, because that's coming.
So I would pick Vegas.
Okay.
Because Baltimore's 9.5. I would feel comfortable if Baltimore won, I don't know, 28-20. 28-20 is a number that's stuck in my head since I saw the line.
Okay.
And that's
But
how Vegas seems to work. And the fact that it's Vegas too.
Yeah, it's 9.5 is a lot to cover.
It is. I think 28-20 would be a good number. You could see Lamar Jackson maybe running for 2 touchdowns, maybe throwing for 1, and then maybe Baltimore gets another touchdown with Derrick Henry running 1 in, and then Gardner Minshew having a couple touchdowns during the game, and then maybe another run from someone. So yeah, my kind of surprise bet, not cover, would be Vegas, or I should say Baltimore winning but not covering.
There you go. But that leads me into Chris. Any games that stick out to you that's, not necessarily the underdog? For me, I'm going to say it's the Lions and the Buccaneers. I don't know. Just kind of interesting where they have it. Lions going on the road. Didn't look super great, even though they do have a stacked team against the Buccaneers. Baker Mayfield, you never know. It might be ready to think that, I don't know. I think it might be a more competitive game than Vegas has it there. But is there any games that stick out to you, my friend?
Yeah, I don't blame you on that. The Bucs hung in there in that playoff game last year. I won't divulge my doghouse pick yet, but one that stood out to me, everyone's written off the Bengals after 1 week. And let's face it, I think Zach Taylor's got like 1 or 2 wins in the month of September in Cincy, but they're getting 6. I'd like that line to be a little higher, but I think the Ravens really played the Chiefs tough. They could have won that game. The Chiefs could not put them away. And I just know the way the Bengals seem to love to play the Chiefs. They always play them tough. I think this game won't be a blowout. It'll be closer. Will the Bengals win? Not sure, but nothing would surprise me. And I think last week was a wake-up call, to say the least. But I think there's a reason CBS wants this in the coveted 4 p.m., 1 p.m. Pacific time slot. I think it's going to be a good game, so I'll go out on a limb there and say I think the Bengals keep it closer than people believe.
Emma's writing off Burrow. I just think was the Chase holdout a distraction or illness or whatever he was doing a distraction? He did get food poisoning, legit, he said. So, but the whole contract dispute, do you think that was a distraction for the Bengals?
I think it was a distraction on the field because these guys aren't getting reps, and with the trend being that starters don't play in the preseason anymore, you can only get reps in practice. You could tell a lot of these guys are not in game shape or on the same page. See a lot of like even false start and sloppiness type penalties.
J.K. Dobbins said that, he had those 2 big runs, but he said he got caught because he said he just wasn't in shape, Chris.
Yep. He's not running at 21 miles an hour. So yeah.
Yeah. It's just this new way of dealing with the preseason, I think, is comes back to bite people, and I think you don't get to see what the actual product of the NFL is until maybe week 3 or week 4, when these teams finally get to where they need to be as far as it's concerned, get the reps that they need. But Joe, Chris, it's that magical time again. We are going outside, going out on the lawn, looking at everything that's going on. It's still roasting hot outside. In the case of Chris, maybe a little bit roasting too much. And again, stay safe, my friend. I know it's a little hot out there, more ways than one, but you are outside. You're taking a look at the landscape. It might be a little bit hot, but there's still a dry place known as woof, 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 the doghouse. So who do you got? And I'll get it over to Joe next. Who do you have for your underdog pick of the week?
Well, in keeping with my frugal theme of getting that extra half point, look at last week. We needed it. Had the Jaguars getting the 3 and a hook. Dom picked the Cardinals for entertainment purposes, both of them covered by that dreaded half point. I scour the lines already this week. I see a couple of them, and one that stands out to me, the aforementioned New York Jets. Everyone loves to write everyone off after 1 week of football. They go into Tennessee. I did a double take. That's a good sign usually for me when I'm doing my doghouse research. They're getting 3.5 points against a team that has Will Levis at quarterback. Now, I know the Jets look sloppy, but they've got a good defense. They went up against the reigning NFC champs who were, probably seconds away from pulling off a Super Bowl win last year. I think they rebound. I was not impressed at what I saw, Caleb Williams had an atrocious first game, and the Bears defense literally won that game for him. So I think Aaron Rodgers will get back in tune with Garrett Wilson. Breece Hall will have a big game. I think the Jets win this one outright, but if they manage to screw it up somehow, at least you've got that extra half-point cushion that I always advocate for.
Joe, are there any underdogs that you're looking at for this weekend in the NFL?
Yeah, I mean, based off the lines, I mean, it can be easy. There's a couple that are easy. Like, I could see Seattle losing to New England in New England, right? Is that really an upset, though? No. I was even looking at Jacksonville, Cleveland. Yeah, you could see Cleveland beat Jacksonville. But the one that I think would kind of go with what's been happening here for years is as soon as Dallas wins a game, what happens? Jared gets up there and he starts yapping, right? And all of a sudden, a week later, a mundane team like New Orleans comes into Dallas and whoops them, or at least beats them in Dallas. So, and Dallas is getting, I think, 6.5?
Yeah.
I think if I can remember, 6 or 6.5.
I'm going to check it again. I'll just verify, but I thought it was 6.5.
Yeah, it's 6.5.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I got to do this, man. I got to pick New Orleans to beat Dallas in Dallas. That's my upset of the week.
Well, there you go.
Because again, it's gonna be a whirlwind. You know, Stephen A. Smith's gonna be wearing his cowboy hat, and everybody's gonna start saying, "Why did you sign Dak Prescott?" So yeah, I just go. I want to see it honestly. I feel bad for Dak. I actually like Dak. I don't think Dallas deserves Dak, to be honest with you. I think he should have left. Honestly, I think
I agree with you there. They've really given him a rough ride there, and I think a little bit has been unwarranted.
It's very unwarranted, and believe me, I'm one of those guys that you got to put your pants up and do it. But my God, that guy's dealt with more BS than I think I've ever seen anyone deal with that kind of skill set, and dealing with the fact that Jerry Jones is in charge. A guy who sabotages his own team because he wants to feel good. It's just unfortunate that he has to continue. Well, I wouldn't say it's unfortunate. He's got the biggest contract in NFL history. I think there are worse things to happen, and he's still a Dallas Cowboy quarterback. There's a lot of prestige there, but it would fit the fitting, if you will, of how Dallas usually performs after a win.
Guys, I think it's going to be a very interesting week in week 2. Again, please look at your waiver wire out there if you want to go ahead and make sure that you have the best chance of winning in week 2. But any last minute advice for your week 2 on lineup changes or anything that stands out to you, Chris, before we head on out?
Yeah, as someone who had Jaden Reed on the bench in one of my leagues, didn't have him in the flex. I mean, we have Brian Thomas Jr. and we ended up winning that game anyway. But I'm bummed now because he's not going to have as much value with Love out. Or if Malik Willis plays, God help us all. But here's my thing, and we talked about this in our draft preview. Look at your scoring mechanisms, and you've got these flexes. In one league, I've got it where you can put a wide receiver, running back, or tight end, so we don't have to play a tight end. But if you're stuck in a league where you're stuck playing a tight end, like we had Kincaid didn't do much in week 1, make sure you've got guys that get targets. Look and see how many times they were targeted. Look and see how many catches they have. If you play in a PPR league, which you should, those half point or 1 point can add up. So make sure you've got a wide receiver in the flex. Not only is the NFL down on running backs, so are a lot of the fantasy football leagues we play in.
Tingley says start Kirk or B. Thomas before we head on out. Joe?
Who? Start who?
Kirk or B. Thomas?
Kirk Cousins?
Kirk
Christian the receiver.
Kirk.
Oh, sorry.
Christian Kirk, yeah.
I say Thomas.
Yeah, Thomas.
I would go with Thomas. Kirk, I have Kirk on one of my teams, and he just absolutely disappointed.
I thought the Roger Seam route touchdown was nice. It's just The NFL, I thought, scheduled a very stupid game. Jets traveling all the way across the country so you can have your San Francisco Aaron Rodgers jerk-off fest for your ratings. I thought they could have put a better game there. I didn't think the Jets were going to compete that night. There's too much rust there for Aaron Rodgers. And we saw it happen.
Well, we'll see what will happen in week 2 of the NFL. But Joe, any last thoughts or any advice for people out there to make some changes before week 2?
I would. Chris called it best. Try to play your receivers as much as you can.
Shaka has a good one. This one, should he sell high on Cup?
No,
not now. Now that Puka's gone, no.
No, because Stafford's going to find a way to get that guy the ball. I mean, even he made a bad throw late in the game, but he was looking for Cup in double coverage. He will do that to get him the ball.
Well, okay, there you have it right there for you. But yeah, Cup, he is going to get the lion's share of the passes now from Stafford. It's pretty much a guarantee.
Yeah, we wanted Cup. He's just our draft position. He wasn't there. There was no way we could have gotten him unless we reached at the end of the first round, which we weren't about to do.
Joe?
Hector, I have Curtis Samuel in one of my leagues. I'm almost waiting for him to do something first. So if you have him on your bench and he's like your 10th guy or something, I would hold on. Biggest disappointment this week, by the way, was Kincaid. He had an absolute dog shit of a game.
Dud.
I agree. Should I drop Curtis for Parkinson? And he has Ferguson.
I don't know about that one. I don't like dropping on 50-50s because then you drop him and he ends up playing well. Then you hate yourself.
It's too early. If it's
early.
A trend and it's like I've had Kyle Pitts in the past and I just wish, I'd never drafted him. But after about 6 weeks, that's called a trend.
Well, we will see what happens. Great questions from Hector. Great question from Shaka. Xbox, Sports Baby, Tingley. Great questions so far. Truly cannot thank you enough. If you have any more questions that you need on your fantasy football team, you can go and hit us up, isfantasyfootball@yahoo.com or Inside Sports FF on Twitter, or we're on almost every day on the Lakers Fast Break channel. So if you want to hit us up, Lakers Fast Break, you just like and subscribe on the Pop Culture Cosmos or Lakers Fast Break. And don't forget Chris and Dom Lardieri's great show, The Domination Sports Nation. Chris, before we head on out, what exactly did you talk about on the latest episode of The Domination Sports Nation?
Thank you, Gerald. I got Dom out of his summer hiatus. We talked week 1 NFL, the same thing we discussed tonight with some waiver wire targets. Talked about Tom Brady's mediocre performance. I'm not trying to get on the clickbait overreact train, but he's got a lot of work to do. And then to even mix in some college football, it's just odd with no more Pac-12 and these expanded teams in the SEC. It just makes for a lot of interesting dynamics, especially with the playoff system extended out to 12 teams. And then 2, we even plugged this fine show. So be sure to listen wherever you get your podcasts. It's spelled Dom-Nation Sports Nation. Follow us on Instagram @Domination Sports Nation, or you can follow me on Twitter. I refuse to call it X, @ChrisL Sports.
Thank you again to Chris Lardieri from the Domination Sports Nation, Joe Sorrell from Lakers Fast Break, LakersBall.com, and of course, SimBlades with Y.com. Big shout out to our members on Lakers Fast Break. Shout out to our members. If you want to become a member on the Lakers Fast Break, it's just $2.99 a month. Get emojis, badges, big shout outs from all of us here at the Lakers Fast Break. Darren, Sports Baby, Richard, Bloodhound, and Xbox cannot thank you enough for being great members of what we do each and every time out on the Lakers Fast Break. But for now, it is Gerald Glassford. Thanks again for watching and listening. We'll be back for, one last question. Got to go ahead and hit up with those questions. Tingley said, drop Palmet to pick up Brandon Cooks, George T. Johnson, or D. Robinson. He dropped Palmer, I'm thinking. Yeah, that's what I was. Drop Palmer.
Is he dropping Jordan Palmer?
Yeah, I believe that's what he was.
I would not. I do like DeMarcus Robinson as a waiver pickup, but I think, You can't go off of 1 week. Harbaugh just wanted to run the ball down the Raiders' throats. I still think, even though McConkey got a touchdown, I'm still high on Palmer.
I'm not 100%. I mean, Cooks is tantalizing to me, but I'm not. I don't think he'll get the volume. I just don't think he'll get the volume. I don't trust that.
I got more of a, that was they're keying on CD. He got a touchdown because he was wide open.
How much time you should be faithful to Palmer then?
I mean, for me, he's a wide receiver one. I know he doesn't seem like it on most teams, but he is. And Herbert, I saw the Chargers play in person a couple years ago. Herbert likes him even when he wasn't the main wide receiver. He was more of a 3 back then. Give it a few weeks. If this is a trend and either teams are keying on him or Herbert can't get him the ball, then you consider that. But just for the guys you mentioned, none of them are wide receiver ones. I think his targets will improve. And let's face it, this is another thing you got to do in fantasy. Look who your players are going up against. Oh, what a delight. They're playing the Carolina Panthers, and mediocre Derek Carr just lit them up. So let's see what he does this week. At least give it a couple weeks, I'd say.
Joe, would you drop Jordan Palmer or stay with him, at least keep him on the team instead of getting Cooks, Dortch, T. Johnson, or Robinson? Let me go ahead and unmute. There you go.
Yeah, Cook always teases when he makes a good play, and you want to. But I'm trying to be disciplined and say wait at least a week or so before you start dropping people that are 50-50s.
Okay. That's a good point. Absolutely. It is week 1. We don't hit the panic button. I think, Chris, we do our annual panic.
Don't panic.
Episode. Yeah. We do our panic episode in week 4. I think that's when we do it. But I will tell you, though, right now it's still week 2 in the NFL. Here's hoping your week 2 in the NFL will be a good one for you. But if you have any questions for us, isfantasyfootball@yahoo.com, Inside Sports FF on Twitter, or anytime on the Lakers Fast Break. So for Chris Lardieri from Domination Sports Nation, Joe Soar from Lakers Fast Break, and me also as well, Gerald Glassford, thanks again for watching this thing. We'll be back next week and also throughout the week for Lakers stuff, but next week right here for Inside Sports Fantasy Football.